Elena Voss did not expect to be dragged before the king on the coldest night of winter. She had only been trying to save a life. A wolf, badly hurt, had staggered onto the edge of her village near the northern border, blood soaking into the snow. Elena, trained since childhood as a healer, had knelt beside the creature without a second thought. She cleaned the wound, pressed herbs against torn flesh, and stayed with him through the night, whispering calm words the way her mother once taught her. She did not know, until the guards arrived at dawn, that the wolf belonged to territory forbidden to outsiders. She did not know that helping him would change her life forever. The guards did not care that she had saved a life. They only cared that she had crossed a line. Within hours, she was pulled from her home and brought to the castle of Blackthorn, the seat of power for the Alpha King himself. The throne room was vast, lit by torches that threw long shadows across the stone floor. Elena walked in with her chin lifted, refusing to let her fear show, even though her heart pounded so hard she thought everyone could hear it. Nobles and warriors lined the walls, watching her with curious, judging eyes, and at the far end of the room, seated on a throne carved from black wood, was King Damien Ashford. He was younger than she expected, though power sat on him like a second skin. His eyes were sharp, gold-flecked, and when they landed on her, something in the room seemed to shift. He rose slowly from his throne, and the entire court fell silent. "You are the one who healed my scout," he said. It was not a question. "I am," Elena answered, refusing to lower her gaze. "I did not know he was yours. I only knew he was hurt." A murmur rippled through the court. Damien stepped down from the dais, closing the distance between them with slow, deliberate steps. When he was close enough that she could feel the warmth radiating from him, he stopped. His eyes never left hers. Then, without warning, he said the words that would shatter her world. "You are my mate." Gasps filled the room. Elena's stomach dropped. "Excuse me?" "My wolf recognized you the moment you walked in," Damien said, his voice steady, though something flickered behind his eyes. Surprise, perhaps, at his own certainty. "There is no mistaking it. You are meant to stand beside me as Queen of Blackthorn." Elena felt anger rise hot in her chest. She had heard stories of Alpha Kings claiming mates as though they were prizes to be collected, women expected to bow and accept their fate without question. Her own family had suffered under a different Alpha's cruelty years ago, forced from their home when a rival pack claimed their land. She had grown up believing that power, when left unchecked, only brought pain. "I refuse," she said, loud enough for the whole court to hear. The silence that followed was deafening. No one refused an Alpha King. No one refused a mate bond. But Elena stood her ground, even as whispers turned to murmurs of shock around her. Damien's jaw tightened, but he did not raise his voice. "You cannot refuse what is written in blood and bone." "Then let it be written," Elena said, "but I will not be claimed like property. I know the old law. A chosen mate may refuse the bond for one full cycle of the moon. I invoke that right." A tense silence stretched between them. Damien studied her for a long moment, something unreadable passing over his face. Then, slowly, he nodded. "Very well," he said. "One cycle. But know this, Elena Voss, my wolf does not choose lightly, and he will not let you go easily." And so began the strangest month of Elena's life. She was given quarters in the castle, guarded not as a prisoner, but not quite as a guest either. She was allowed to move through certain parts of the grounds, though always with watchful eyes trailing her. She hated it at first. The gilded halls, the silk gowns laid out for her that she refused to wear, the constant reminder that she was somehow both important and powerless at the same time. But she was stubborn, and stubbornness kept her from breaking. Damien, for his part, seemed just as determined not to bend. He visited her often, though never uninvited into her rooms. Instead, he found reasons to cross her path, in the gardens, in the library, in the long stone corridors that echoed with their footsteps. At first, their conversations were sharp, filled with arguments about duty and freedom, about kings and commoners, about the weight of choices neither of them had asked to carry. "You speak as though I chose this bond," Damien said one evening, as they stood together on a balcony overlooking the frozen forest. "I did not ask my wolf to recognize you. It happened the moment I saw you. whether I wanted it or not. That doesn't make it right to expect me to simply accept it, Elena replied. I am not a piece to be placed on a board because your wolf demands it. Damien was quiet for a long moment. No, he finally said, you are not. It was the first time she saw something other than command in his eyes, something almost like understanding. As days passed, their sharp words softened, little by little. Elena began to see the burden Damien carried, the endless responsibilities of ruling a kingdom, the constant threats from rival packs, the loneliness of a man who could trust almost no one. And Damien began to see a woman who was not impressed by his crown, who challenged him not out of defiance for its own sake, but because she believed, fiercely, in fairness. She caught him once, late at night, standing alone in the empty throne room, staring at the ancient tapestries that told the history of his bloodline. He looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with sleep. Do you ever wish you were someone else? She asked quietly, stepping into the room. Damien turned to her, surprised. Every day, he admitted. But wishing changes nothing. I was born to this. My people need a strong king, not a man who longs for a simpler life. Strength doesn't mean carrying everything alone, Elena said. He looked at her for a long time after that, as though her words had touched something deep and unspoken inside him. Slowly, without either of them fully admitting it, something began to grow between them. Not the forced bond of fate, but something steadier, trust, built through late-night conversations and quiet moments neither had expected to share. But peace never lasts long in a kingdom built on power. Word came one morning that a rival alpha, Ronan of the Ashen Pack, had begun moving his warriors toward Blackthorn's borders. Ronan had long resented Damien's rule, and rumors of an unclaimed king, one whose mate had refused him, gave him the perfect excuse to test Blackthorn's strength. The castle fell into chaos as warriors prepared for battle. Elena, trained not for war, but for healing, found herself needed more than ever. She worked alongside the castle's healers, preparing herbs, bandages, and remedies for the wounded that would surely come. When the attack finally struck, it came fast and brutal. Ronan's warriors pushed hard against Blackthorn's defenses, and for the first time since her arrival, Elena saw Damien not as a king on a throne, but as a warrior fighting for his people. He moved with lethal precision, protecting his pack with a ferocity that left her breathless. Then, in the chaos of battle, disaster struck. Elena, rushing to reach a fallen warrior near the front line, found herself suddenly exposed as a group of Ronan's fighters broke through the defense. She froze, her healer's instincts no match for the danger closing in. That was when everything changed. Damien, fighting several yards away, felt something shift inside him, a surge of raw, primal fear, unlike anything he had ever known. His wolf, usually kept carefully under control, tore free from his grip entirely. In the blink of an eye, he was there, standing between Elena and the attackers, his wolf form massive and terrifying, teeth bared, eyes blazing gold. He fought with a strength that seemed almost impossible, driving the attackers back until they fled into the trees. And then, as the battle noise faded and the danger passed, something extraordinary happened. Damien's wolf, still trembling with the aftershock of battle, turned to Elena. Slowly, deliberately, the massive creature lowered himself before her, bowing his great head until it touched the snow-covered ground. The warriors nearby froze in stunned silence. An alpha wolf did not kneel, not to enemies, not to allies, not even to other kings. It was an act of complete submission, something ancient and sacred, reserved only for a true mate, recognized not just by instinct, but by the deepest part of a wolf's soul. Elena stared, her breath caught in her throat, tears stinging her eyes as the weight of what she was witnessing settled over her. This was not a claim born of duty or politics. This was something real. Slowly, Damien shifted back to his human form, kneeling before her now as a man rather than a wolf, breathless and vulnerable in a way she had never seen him. I did not choose this bond to control you, he said quietly, his voice raw. I understand now that if I had truly wanted you as my mate, I never should have simply claimed you. I should have asked. Elena knelt down in front of him, her hands trembling as she took his in hers. "Then ask me," she whispered. Damien looked up at her, his golden eyes filled with something softer than command, something achingly human. "Elena Voss," he said, "will you stand beside me, not as a claimed mate, but as my equal? Will you be my queen, not because fate demanded it, but because I choose you, and I hope you might choose me too?" Tears slipped down Elena's cheeks as she smiled, the walls she had built around her heart finally crumbling. "Yes," she said, "not because your wolf knelt, but because you did." The following days brought healing to both the kingdom and its people. Ronan's forces retreated, unwilling to test a king whose bond had proven so powerful. Peace slowly returned to Blackthorn, and with it, whispers of a new kind of leadership, one built not on dominance, but on respect. On the night of the next full moon, the castle gathered for a bonding ceremony unlike any before it. There were no chains, no forced vows, no shadows of old cruelty. Only two people who had chosen each other freely, standing together beneath the silver light. As Damien took Elena's hand before their people, his wolf did not need to kneel again to prove what was already known in every heart present. The king who once ruled through strength alone had found something far greater, a partner who challenged him, grounded him, and loved him not because he was a king, but because of who he truly was beneath the crown. And Elena, who had once refused a claim out of fear, now stood proudly as queen, not because she was owned, but because she was chosen, and because, in turn, she had chosen him too. Together, they ruled not with dominance, but with unity, two equals bound not just by fate, but by a love strong enough to make even a king kneel.